If you men only knew.
If I were charged with the task of exterminating a race of people, such as white or black culture, I would have them kill themselves by implementing a century-old campaign to normalize child and teen sex, so nature could do the rest, so nature could do what is called the soft kill. Promiscuity and early sex abuse has been shown by science to cause permanent brain damage, autism, schizophrenia, psychopathy, rage, depression, irritability, autoimmune disorders in adults. These disorders are almost exclusively limited to Western cultures. Monogamy and delayed sexual activity until the late 20s has been shown by science to produce higher IQs, emotional and mental stability. It is a predictor of financial and social success in both girls and boys. That is why Roman fathers delayed marriage of their daughters until the late 20s. Rome needed strong, smart women. So if you want to destroy a culture, you must first destroy the women. Science has shown that sexual abuse early in women causes perpetual infantilism. So imagine my surprise when I found the tape of John DeLynn and Mike Norton, two middle-aged men, weeping about the bravery of a 12-year-old coming out and announcing herself to be a lesbian. I must say, as a mother, I am shocked. Do they realize that at 12 years old, she's not even a teenager? Did they inquire whether Samantha had even started her period? Obvious that a 12-year-old could only believe they were a lesbian if, one, they had sexual contact with an older sexual predator, or two, they have been indoctrinated and programmed to say this, fulfill some sort of social agenda that adults want her to fulfill. I'm going to show you eventually a podcast they did in which they're trying to normalize a 12-year-old coming out as a lesbian. Now, a 12-year-old can't possibly know what sex orientation they are unless they've engaged in sex. And a 12-year-old engaging in sex is against the law. And Mike Norton and John DeLynn are violating the law by exploiting this 12-year-old and promoting 12-year-olds coming out and being lesbians. That falls right under the welfare code as being child exploitation. Child exploitation is defined as forcing or coercing a child into performing activities that are beyond the child's capabilities. In other words, did they fully inquire that this child was not being coerced by other people to say such things? Or did they inquire before parading Samantha on whether or not she'd been exploited by an older predator that had groomed her and psychologically influenced her into believing that at 12 years old she could possibly make such a decision on her sexual orientation? Well, I doubt that either one of them did. This Mike Norton just appears to be a grandstander, and you can see from the rest of this video that both of them probably need to have a new acting coach. Both of them are having difficulty in generating any authentic emotion or tears.
I take Xanax. Every night when I go to bed, I take a Xanax and an Ambien. Ambien to put me to sleep, Xanax to stop my mind from racing, because all I can think about is, where's the next Stephen? How can I help the next Allison? Because right now, there's children that are convinced death is the only answer. because their God doesn't accept them for how they are and who they are. In June of this year, I got a private message from somebody saying, I have a video of a girl bearing her testimony in church, coming out as gay, and they shut her mic off. And I'm wondering if you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And I watched it, and I sobbed. Savannah, that is the bravest kid, bravest person I've ever met in my life. Not only did I blur the faces, but I told you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And I watched it, and I sobbed. Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. That is the bravest kid, bravest person I've ever met in my life. Not only did I blur the faces, but I told you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And the person who gave it to me, there were two minors, two children recorded her testimony. I've got both angles of her testimony. And I watched it, and I sobbed. Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And I said, not only can I blur the faces, you know, I have a YouTube channel, I've got a Twitter account, I've got 12,000 subscribers. I said, let me share it. Let me post it. Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And online. I said, I really think a lot of people would see this, because watching the video, I'll tell you, maybe 50 people in the actual chapel that day were paying attention to what she was saying. When she dropped the L-bomb and said lesbian, you see a few heads pop up. But most people weren't really... Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And paying attention. And Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And then 2 minutes into her 2.5 minute testimony, they cut her mic off. So where's the next Stephen? How can I help the next Allison? Because right now, there's children. Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And that are convinced death is the only answer, because their God doesn't accept them for how they are and who they are. To give you a perspective of how insignificant Mormonism is, Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And all of my videos combined in 5 years have gotten about 5 million views. Savannah's testimony got 5 million views in 5 days. So I started having all these media requests pouring in via email saying, can we share your video? I mean, big ones. You know, CNN and I mean, the New York Times covered it, the Chicago Tribune, the Daily Mirror, hundreds and hundreds of newspapers around the world were publishing this and posting it on Twitter and what have you, and how much love there is in the world for people like Savannah, and how Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. Savannah, you could maybe blur the faces in this video. And much love there is in the world for people like Savannah. Is where's the next Stephen? How can I help the next Allison? Because right now, and I watched it, and I sobbed. Savannah, that is the bravest kid, bravest person I've ever met in my life.